This weapon is clunky compared to the other weapons. I did not like the lance at first, but after you finish watching this video, you will find out that the lance is actually fun to play with. Learning this weapon is not hard at all, but don't expect any advanced tips in this video. I'm no pro, but I can at least get you to a level where you can comfortably use this weapon. Somehow pro players like to click on these tutorial videos, so if I missed out on anything, go ahead and point it out to help new lance players too. I do wonder why they click on these videos. Also, I'm using Xbox controls, but don't worry, there will be both PlayStation and PC default controls here to follow. Let's start with your opening attacks. What I mostly like to do is jump off my mount and perform a thrust by pressing triangle or Y, hoping that I'll get a quick mount on the monster. There's also the other option, which is to press R2 or RT to do a dash attack, which I'll talk more about later on. There is the dismount attack by pressing triangle and circle or Y and B, but it's pretty much the same as the jump and mount attack. If you're somehow walking around without your weapon out, you can press triangle or Y while moving to perform a thrust, or you can press R2 or RT to go into a guard. Okay, now it's time to learn about your thrust attacks. You have either the mid or high thrust attacks, where the mid thrust attacks are done by pressing triangle or Y, and the high thrust attacks are done by pressing circle or B. You can alternate between either one depending on your situation, but remember that your high thrusts do more damage than the mid thrusts. After doing 3 thrust attacks, if you press triangle or Y, you do the triple thrust attack, which has pretty good damage, and you can cancel the final hit of this attack by going into a guard. That's easily done by holding R2 or RT. But if you press circle or B after 3 thrust attacks, you perform the charge counter, which I'll talk about later on. In between your thrust combos, you can press the evade button to reset your thrust combo, which is a good way to perform an infinite combo. You can also press triangle and circle or Y and B to do a wide sweep attack, but this move can only be done after your first or second thrust attack. Or you can hold R2 or RT to go into a guard. Another option, which is one of the safest options, is to perform a guard dash. This is done by moving the stick in a direction and holding R2 or RT and pressing triangle or Y. This move is safe because you're guarding yourself from an attack while moving and ending your thrust combo. You can also guard dash at any time using the same button inputs I just said, without having to do a thrust first. After guard dashing, you can press triangle or Y to do a shield attack. This is a very close range attack that inflicts blunt damage, so hitting the head of a monster with this move has the potential to knock them out. Or you can press circle or B to perform the leap and thrust attack. This move is good for closing the distance, and since this is a thrust attack, this replaces your first thrust attack, meaning that you can carry on your thrust attack combo. You can also do this move by pressing triangle and circle or Y and B before doing any attack. Alright, we can go back and talk about the charge counter. You can also do this move by holding R2 or RT and pressing circle or B instead of doing it after the third thrust attack. This move changes depending on how you use it. If you let the monster hit you while you're doing this move, you automatically hit the monster back with a high thrust attack, which doesn't do a lot of damage, but it is the safest option and you can continue doing the thrust combo. The other option, which is riskier, is to let go of the charge counter just on time with the monster's attack. This will do the double counter thrust, which does more damage than the previous option. The charge counter can be charged up, which will increase the damage of the double counter thrust. As you can see, charging this move is a waste of time, but there's a better way of accessing the different charge levels of this attack. Depending on your thrust combo, whenever you do the charge counter, you access the charge level of the counter. For example, if I do 2 thrust attacks and then do a charge counter, I would access the level 2 charge of this move. Whereas if I were to do 3 thrust attacks and do the charge counter after, I'll go into the max charge. Doing a charge counter can allow you to do the power guard. While you're holding down R2 or RT for the charge counter, press X or A to go into the power guard. This move lets you block any attack, but it will heavily drain your stamina, so don't be using this move for too long. You mostly want to block one or a couple of attacks, and then do your next attack. You can press triangle or Y to do the leap and thrust. You can press circle or B for a payback thrust, which I need to talk about later on. or you can press triangle and circle or Y and B to do a retribution thrust. However, this move changes to a grand retribution thrust or a GRT whenever you're hit while doing the power guard. The GRT does more damage than the regular retribution thrust, so try to avoid using the regular one. Before I move on to the next thing to learn, let me go back to the payback thrust. If you get hit while you're doing the power guard, you perform an enhanced payback thrust, which will do quite a bit of damage compared to a normal payback thrust. You can also do this enhanced move if you were to perform a perfect guard and then press circle or B. The normal version of this move is done when you're not hit by an attack during the power guard move, or you did not perform a perfect guard against an attack. Pressing triangle or Y after this attack also allows you to gain instant access to the triple thrust attack. Obviously, it's better to do this move when you have a good window to attack. Doing a perfect guard can also allow you to do the return thrust, which is easily done by pressing triangle or Y after the perfect guard. This move is a safer option compared to the payback thrust because of how quick it is to do. You can also do the retribution thrust, guard dash, and charge counter after doing a perfect guard. They all have the same button inputs as I've said before. The last attack to learn is the dash attack. I already mentioned how to do this move near the start of the video, but there's two other ways to do this move. You can hold R2 or RT and then press triangle and circle or Y and B to do a dash attack. As you can see, doing this move moves you forward while damaging anything that gets in the way. The other way of doing the dash attack is after any retribution thrust, press triangle and circle or Y and B. The difference by doing the dash attack in this way allows you to speed up faster than the other. This speed up effect allows you to do the finishing twin thrust attack, which is easily done by pressing triangle or Y or circle or B when you've sped up. There's also a few other options you can do when you perform a dash attack. Pressing triangle or circle or Y and B before the speed up effect will do a finishing thrust attack. Don't do this move because the damage is trash when compared to the finishing twin thrust attack, but it is there if you need it. Holding back the left stick and pressing triangle or Y will do the reverse attack, but if you were to press X or A instead, you do the dash turn, which turns you around and continues the dash attack in the other direction. The speed up effect will reset as well, so be wary of that. You can also tilt the left stick left or right and press X or A to make your character step to either side, which also resets the speed up effect. If you were to hold the left stick forward and press X or A, your character will jump, and then pressing triangle or Y will let you do the advance and jump thrust. This jump thrust can cause mounting damage, which basically lets you mount the monster after a specific amount of times. Since I've talked about almost every move, then I guess I'll throw in the focus strike. Pressing R1 or RB will do this weapon's focus strike, and it does cause blunt damage, meaning that you can get the monster tired or knock them out when hitting the head of the monster. And I guess another move that I forget that's there is the guard thrust. Holding R2 or RT and pressing triangle or Y will do this move. It's a pointless move. I don't think anyone uses this attack at all unless I'm wrong. I should also mention that you should have focus mode on while using this weapon. With it on, you can move your character's position left, right or away from wherever you're facing when you're doing the mid thrust attacks. All you gotta do is move the left stick in whatever direction you want to go alongside the mid thrust attack. This is great for slowly repositioning yourself while dealing damage. Also, focus mode is great to keep your character facing the monster so you can block attacks. Now that you've learnt every move, here's a few combos that you can do. Just remember that you won't always be following the same combos. This is because you can add counters at almost any point of a combo, which will save your life from an attack. I've already mentioned the basic thrust combo, which is done by using or alternating between mid or high thrust attacks. As you can see, you can only do this 3 times because your next button input will basically end the combo. You can change up the 3-hit combo by adding a leaping thrust attack, a wide sweep, and a mid or high thrust attack. This is a much slower but powerful combo because of the wide sweep mixed in. Also, it's riskier due to the slow animation of the wide sweep. I already mentioned one infinite combo, which is by adding an evade after your free hit attack. But another safe option would be to add a guard dash instead, although you're gonna have to follow up with the other options I mentioned before about whenever you guard dash. An example would be to do any free hit combo, guard dash, then shield attack, and then you can loop back into the basic thrust combo. A combo that involves the GRT would be to do your free hit combo, then charge counter so you can perform the power guard, get hit, and then do the grand retribution thrust, which is best followed up with a dash attack and a finishing twin thrust attack because of the quick speed up effect. Keep in mind that you need a big window to do this move, otherwise good luck on surviving the next attack. These are just a few examples, and since the lance has quite a bit of moves that you can link together, you can go hyper aggressive against a monster. Like, look at me go against the training dummy. Of course, you won't get a situation like this, but if you're able to completely read a monster's attack and know how to line up your combos, you can absolutely destroy the monster even with how slow and clunky this weapon is. Fortunately, the lance doesn't have any insane mechanics to learn besides just countering your attacks. Just keep in mind that blocking attacks will drain your stamina, so don't be blocking too much. Even with that clunky shield, you won't be able to block every attack. Also, if there's attacks that's going past your guard, then make sure you're using the guard up skill to block those unblockable attacks. Another thing I forgot to mention, but I'm sure you must be able to tell, if a monster hits you while you're guarding, you instantly hit back at the monster with your shield inflicting stun damage. Obviously that means you can knock out the monster if you hit their head. Now go have fun poking the monster to death, and I shall see you guys later.